Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, we're going to talk about the announcement of the newest Kiss Off the Soundboard release from 1985 in San Antonio on the Asylum tour. We'll give our thoughts and our opinions on this, as well as talking about the fact there's no CD, and of course, give our opinion on the merchandise. We'll shed a little bit of light on why the merchandise is this way, as well as giving our thoughts and opinions on what we think about this merchandise. I'll also talk a little bit about the time I spent with Pop House on a recent trip and give some thoughts and some comments on that as well. Lots to cover in this episode. I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. So let's jump in and let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. Today, I am excited to be with my friend who's like the Bee Gees right now. He should be dancing. If you're only listening, you don't see that he's already dancing. How you doing, my bloody?
A little annoyed.
A little annoyed. Oh, boy.
Annoyed.
That's not the way we usually start our show here.
Oh,
Why are you annoyed?
Some things are egregious. How dare they take the greatest cookie ever known to mankind, the Girl Scout Samoa, and rename it?
It's been renamed, really?
Yes.
What is it renamed to?
A Caramel Delight. Now, am I going to disagree? It's a delight? No. Am I going to disagree that's made of caramel? No, I'm not. However, they renamed the cookie. And that to me, quite tasty.
Is egregious.
Actually,
so you like that better than the Thin Mint?
I was going to get to that.
Okay.
Because
I had no idea we were going to talk about Girl Scout cookies. This is great.
If I had to put them in a steel cage and actually throw it in a steel cage to see what happens, the Thin Mint is right up there. But there's something about this cookie that's special. I don't know if it's a little piece of coconut that's on it. Anyways, so from what I understand is the reason why it's not like I don't think like the Washington Redskins can't be called the Redskins anymore or the Cleveland Indians. I think that has to do with the what they call it, the manufacturer or the distributor or contract or something that they renamed the cookie.
Okay.
Like, what they have the right to it?
Interesting. Interesting.
Anyways, as I've just taken about a minute of your podcast talking about.
That's okay. I you know what? The Samoa cookie is okay, although, and I do like coconut. I am a big fan of the coconut flavor.
I think I just spit. Okay.
but I will always, to me, in that steel cage death match, the Thin Mint wins hands down easily.
Obviously, we haven't gotten to what we're talking about yet, but people can also put in the comments whether they prefer the Thin Mint or the Samoa cookie. And we'll see. We'll do a little roundup.
We'll see. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I go Thin Mint. You go Samoa. It's close for you. It's not even close for me.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's funny because you're talking about the contract and all of that with the naming of the Girl Scout cookie. And little did we realize, because I didn't know you were going to bring that up, that will actually segue into our discussion. And that being this week that Kiss announced that the Off the Soundboard releases are back. Right. So
back in the New York groove.
That's right. Exactly. So I figured we could talk about that a little bit. And as is always the case, it seems like recently with Kiss stuff, a little bit of drama going around about this release. But before we get to the drama, I'd like to address the stuff that I think to me is good. First off, the Off the Soundboards are back. I think for the last year plus, year and a half, Kiss fans have been kind of clamoring for these Off the Soundboards to come back.
The,
And
the Kirk clamoring.
Kurt clamoring, that's right. And and there was worry that they weren't going to be coming back. So now it's officially coming back. I also like that it was just announced this week, and it's a quick turnaround. It's actually going to be released at the end of this month, March 28th. So I'm a little bit thrilled about that it's a quick turnaround. I also know, and I know you had a little bit of a hectic week here, my friend, but have you seen the cover that they're using for this Off the Soundboard?
I'm actually looking at it flashing by right now, and I was going to comment on that. They obviously going away from the brown paper bag, just with actually put a picture on there.
Yeah. So let's pause there then for a moment. What do you think of them going away from the brown paper bag look? I know some people are like, oh, now it looks different from the others, but some people love that there's artwork. So where do you stand on that?
I mean, right now you're putting me on the spot, so I got a
putting you
little
on the
mixed
spot,
feeling.
yeah.
It's
I
almost
like getting the raw feeling and putting you on the spot for that.
Yeah, I almost think like initially it's almost, even though it wasn't a bootleg product, but it has like the mystique of something you've never heard before, even though it's officially being released. So they kind of kept it kind of simple packaging with just like a stamp of what it is. But now when I see this, I'm like, well, I wish they would have started it this way. It kind of, with different images from different shows. I think that would have been a nice look for the collection.
Right. Yep.
However, now that they've broken that, it's like, well, now it doesn't. Now it's all out of, it doesn't match the original. So I guess if I would have started from scratch with this, I would have said go with picture. Right. That's my feel.
Yep.
And I like it that I think it looks like it is black and white. It's not color. So I like that. And I'm looking also the back cover. There's also, which it is still awesome to see that Kiss logo from that Asylum tour, which was indeed the best one.
Agreed. Yes, agreed. And it's funny because, forgive me for not remembering who this is. Go ahead.
But I'm a little confused, and I'm sure you'll get to this. Did Kiss do those shows with only 2 members?
Yeah, we'll get to that. Okay. We'll get to that. So it's funny because there was
were they using backing tracks back then that I wasn't aware? I did go to one of those shows in '86. I could swear I saw another 2 members on stage.
You did see 4 members on stage, and we'll talk about that and how Kiss fans are rightly upset about that. And
oh, they are?
Just a little bit.
Oh, okay.
And I'll say rightly so. But before we talk about the merch, let's just talk about the show itself, right? So on the cover of the CD is actually all 4 members. You can see Eric Carl, though he's a little bit smaller, but Bruce is predominantly displayed in the front with Paul and Gene, right? So I was happy about that. I liked that they went away from the brown paper bag look. I do wish that, like you said, the other albums had the same kind of look to it on the cover. What's odd, and forgive me, I don't remember who it is, but there was some fan that drew up, I'll say, fake album covers for those original releases like 6 or 9 months ago, and they looked very similar to this. So I just think that's pretty funny. But of course, now when I see that they went away from that brown paper bag look, it just begs the question, will they re-release those other Off the Soundboards with this look to it so that they could have one standard look? Yeah, easy sell, exactly. But who knows? But I kind of like that they went with this look. It's still, how do I say this? It looks cheap enough is the best way. And it doesn't look cheap, but it looks cheap enough where you don't get the feeling like it doesn't look like Kiss Alive or Kiss Alive 2 on the front. It's black and white. Even if you look at Gene, it looks like it's a bad Photoshop, like his head or his wig. It just looks like, but it actually is a throwback, almost like in my mind, to what the Kiss Exposed DVD cover looked like with the heads like photoshopped on. So I kind of like it was well done, but doesn't look quote unquote professional. And I don't mean to insult the person who did it, because I love the way it looks, but I hope it's coming across what I mean by this. It has a bootleg look to it, which I love. I think if they would have done like a professional photo from the Asylum era, I wouldn't have liked the cover. So I really love the way they went about doing this. And to me, it's exciting. This is the first official live album with Eric Carr and Bruce Kulick on it. To me, that's pretty freaking crazy that even with all the other Off the Soundboards, this is the first time we're getting that classic 80s lineup. So Well, and I can see you've got lots
I'm
of things
marinating.
marinated.
Yeah, I'm
I
marinating.
know, I know you want to get to the negative, but I'm trying to stay to
No,
start with
that's
the
not the back.
positive.
I'm just laughing right
Yes.
away.
Okay.
I'm like, all right, let me look at the track listing. I'm like,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
18
So
songs. I'm like, okay, but four of them are solos, and one is Oh
yes.
Susanna.
Mhm.
Man, we used to get chipped back in the day, you know.
So all right. So that was one of the things I did want to talk about is
Hmm.
the set list, right?
But they
But
did do Cold Gin.
they did do so. I'm so excited that I get a 97th version of Cold Gin. But just the fact that we finally have a live album with Bruce Kulick and Eric Carr,
Ah,
to me, that's exciting.
of course, it's exciting,
Yeah.
and I will say, anytime something's done during the era of Bruce Kulick, because we know how much he's waved the Kiss flag for so many years, albeit more so recently.
Mhm.
Understandably, has been a little disappointed in how things went down, and
Yeah.
whatever. We don't have to get into that, but I think it's deserving to him to to because he's very proud of those 10 years he was with the band, and it gets to highlight that time. And I
Yeah.
think actually maybe at some point they should reconsider, re-releasing the Animalize,
Agreed.
live uncensored video,
Yep.
because it's a
Agreed.
classic. It's a
It is.
classic.
It is. It really is. And look, what I love with this, so as a bootleg collector, there's been a few soundboard releases that are out there if you collect those kind of things. But
Mm.
this San Antonio show was not one of them. And it's not even an audio, like an
Mm.
audience recording of this. So this is a
Mm.
fresh recording that nobody's ever heard before. And they released like a 20-second clip online. You could hear it sounds really good. So from that reasons, I'm excited about it. Now I do want to get into what you were just saying, the set list, right? So right away you look at this and you see four solos. Now on my Facebook page, I have done like a concert of the day for the last couple of months, and I've commented that I can't stand listening to solos. So of course, my first thought when I saw the set list is like, do I really need to have all of those solos on an official release? And I'll tell you my
Actually,
opinion. Go ahead. Go ahead.
actually, the only solo you like is hand solo in life in general, right?
Absolutely, that is
Right.
correct. Han
Right.
Solo is the exception to the rule. Although the solo movie
Is
was
it?
not good.
Yeah. Is it Han Solo or Han Solo?
It depends on who you ask. That's a great question. I say Han. A lot of people say Han. I don't know what's
Okay.
right.
Put that in the comments also.
Yes, is it Han or Han? Samoa or Thin
Nobody's going to
Mints?
comment on the
No,
podcast
we
about
don't
Kiss.
care about what you think of the off the soundboard. We want to know
Cookies.
Girl Scout cookies and Han or Han.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, so I've made comments about solos. And my first thought when I saw the set list, do I really need a Paul Stanley guitar solo on an official release? But I'll say this. I am glad the release is complete. All right. Because as a collector, I want the whole show. I don't want things cut
I don't
out.
disagree with that.
So I'm glad they are there. Will I ever listen to those solos more than once? Probably not.
Unless it's a bass slap that Gene does, but
If Gene doesn't like they slap
tribute,
solo.
a tribute to Neil Jason,
Exactly. Then I'll be very
one
happy.
night only tribute to Neil Jason. Bow, bow. Hotel, bow.
That's great. Nobody has any idea why you're throwing his name out. Probably, if you understand why Vincent threw out that name, you let
I
us
gave
know.
a hint. I
You
gave
gave
a
a
hint.
hint. You did
Yeah.
give a hint. But so I'm glad that the solos are there, but I'll probably never listen to more than the first listen. So let me pause there and get, because you went instantly to that set list, and let's just talk the solos for a moment, because then we'll talk about the songs themselves. Would you want those solos included or not?
Yes.
Okay. I'm surprised you said yes. I
Yes.
thought you'd say no.
No, I agree with you. I want it to be complete. I want the feel of the entire show from top to bottom.
Right. Right. So even when Paul was infamous, when you point to the left and make them cheer and point to the right and made them cheer, I want to hear that, but I only want to hear it once. I don't want it all cut out. I just hate having that cut out. So
yeah.
So all right. Yeah, I think a lot of people probably feel those solos are not necessary. And I've seen people make comments, why they have to have the solos on there. There should be more songs. Well,
where are they going to get them from?
Exactly. They only released the songs that they recorded that night. Now, saying that, I think the first week of the tour, Kiss was not doing Won't Get Fooled Again or Whole Lot of Love. even though I know that they were being rehearsed, but they didn't make the set list the first week. It's the week after, I think, that really they started doing Won't Get Fooled Again, which I think Kiss does an amazing version of that song. So when I looked at the set list, the first thing I was like, God damn, Won't Get Fooled Again was not on there. My first thought was that they cut it. And look, maybe this was the first night of the tour they did it. We don't know because there's no documents of this show. But I know that they did not do it the first few nights of the tour. So I'm going to guess they didn't perform it this night either. I would have loved the Off the Soundboard to have Won't Get Fooled Again. And I think when you saw them on that tour, didn't they do it that night also?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would have loved that. Also, the first night of the tour, they did King of the Mountain and Any Way You Slice It. Now, I don't know that Off the Soundboard exists from that show, right? But I would have, and King of the Mountain, they did 3, 4, 5 times on the tour. I forget the exact number. I would have loved if the show that they were releasing actually included, at the bare minimum, King of the Mountain and Won't Get Fooled Again. I think it would have just added a little bit more to this release to have a few more songs that we don't already have an official live version of.
Well, it's interesting though. How do you say this? Generative AI? Is that how you say it?
Yeah,
Generative.
yeah, I think so.
It says includes blah 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 blah. Heaven's on fire. Won't get fooled again for the. Well, it just says the Asylum tour setlist for the San Antonio concert in 1986 included songs like Detroit City, Feels Like a Glove, Cold Gin All Night, War Machine, I Still Love You, Under the Gun, Tears Are Falling, I Love It Loud, Love Good, Rock and Roll Night, Heaven's on Fire, Won't Get Fooled Again, and Lick It Up. So are we sure that it wasn't performed that night?
I
Now,
think
maybe
AI
this is a copyright thing. Maybe it's a copyright thing.
Of course, it could be. It could be. But if you look, I think they
It's not on
started the
Setlist
tour.
FM.
So no, it's because there was no bootleg recording of this show ever
Is
available.
that how it's? And I guess people didn't document it back then.
Yeah, people did. But if you look, I think the tour started in Little Rock, Arizona. Little Rock, Arkansas. Little Rock, Arkansas. If you look at that show, there is no Won't Get Fooled Again on the set list, and there is a bootleg from that show. And then I think the next night, I forget where it is, also there's a bootleg, and Won't Get Fooled Again is not performed. And then I think San Antonio is like the 3rd or 4th show of the tour.
I guess you got to wait for somebody who's actually at the show and say, hey, they did do it or not.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't seen anybody comment one way or another. And then look, somebody's going to go off of their memory, and they might have 42 bootlegs of them doing Won't Get Fooled Again and swear up and down they did it at their show. They could be right. It could be wrong. So even if somebody says they were at the show, I'll take it with a little bit of grain of salt, because we're talking about a 40-year-old memory. And
what was the date on this? Was this 85?
I think it was 86.
It's San Antonio.
Yeah. Oh, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not the beginning of the tour like I thought it was.
Well, there is the 4th show in is San Antonio.
Right. That's what I thought.
Yeah. So did they go back there?
What's the date on that San Antonio show, the 4th one?
December 3rd, 1985.
Yeah. So I think that's the show.
And it looks like they only played it once.
Yeah.
So, on that tour.
So I said 86 because in my mind the Asylum tour was 86, but I think that shows December of 85.
Yeah, so most likely the generative AI is just going based on what they did for that tour. 4 songs,
exactly.
4 shows in, they didn't do Won't Get Fooled Again.
Right. Like I said, if you look at the set list from the first couple of nights of the tour, Won't Get Fooled Again is not on there.
It's interesting. I didn't realize this, though. The show that I went to was the second to last show of the tour.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, too, that the show after that, the last show, that Kix actually opened for Kiss.
Yes.
And when I saw it was Blue Oyster Cult.
Yeah. So you were supposed to be at the last show of the tour. The last show was Baltimore, I think it was, if I remember right. And
it says Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, right. Pittsburgh. Sorry. Yes, Pittsburgh. And the Pittsburgh show was supposed to be the week before. And I think the day of the show, there was a power outage and they had to postpone the show.
There was a loose penguin on the ice.
There's a loose penguin on the ice. Yes. So they had to reschedule the show for the following week. Blue Oyster Cult was not available.
Short tour.
Yeah, short tour. It was. But Blue Oyster Cult was not available for that show, and that's why they got kicked as a one-off for that show.
Wow.
Okay, so that's a little history of that Pittsburgh show. But yeah, I wish that the San Antonio Off the Soundboard included King of the Mountain, Won't Get Fooled Again. Anyway you slice it, if it was going to be the first show. I think that's the only show they ever did anyway you slice it at. That would have made this even better, this release. but I'm still excited that we get a Bruce and Eric release. But it's in my mind with the set list, it's like a 7 or an 8 out of 10, as opposed to being a 10 out of 10 if it had those 3 songs I just mentioned.
So it's interesting too. Wikipedia has the 1985 set list and the 1986 set list. Okay. So in 85, they did what? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, I'm around 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 25. Let's just say 25 shows in 85.
Okay.
And then according to Wikipedia, which could be wrong, it says Won't Get Fooled Again. And the 86 set list, Won't Get Fooled Again, is not included. So I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah. Well, they went back and forth between Won't Get Fooled
Sure
Again
they did.
and Whole Lot of Love.
And I don't see Oh Susanna listed anywhere on there, which is really, they just would jam on it for
Yeah,
what?
yeah, that's exactly. That to me is not a real song performance.
Yeah.
But if you look up Little Rock, Arkansas,
yeah,
and you look up the first show of the tour, which I think was November 27th or 29th. Yeah, so and you look, I believe Won't Get Fooled Again is not on the set list, right?
Well, it doesn't say specifically to that.
No, if you go on setlist.fm.
All right, yeah, all right. No, I didn't see that.
So if you go on there, I'm almost positive Won't Get Fooled Again was not on the opening night of the tour.
Okay.
And not on the next night either.
Okay. All right.
So
it's also interesting to see that I'm looking at all the names of the arenas. There's not one
named after something.
Yeah. What do they call it? Not branded. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. Didn't exist back then.
Nope. So, but now let me ask you, with the fact that the set does not include Won't Get Fooled Again, or let's just say King of the Mountain, does that damper it for you? Because I've seen a few people comment that it, dampers it for you.
No. I would like to hear, but does it damper it? I would have liked to have heard it, of course. It's one of my favorite songs ever. So it's just like Who songs. And as you said, they did a great version of it.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I would have actually preferred if I had a choice of only one, King of the Mountain or Won't Get Fooled Again, I probably would have choose Won't Get Fooled Again, because that's just how much I love their version of that song. So I'm a little disappointed that Won't Get Fooled Again was not performed on this evening, but I said before, I've got plenty of bootlegs, soundboards, plenty of soundboards from the tour where they do the song. It's not like I'm not missing having a nice soundboard release of this. And it nags at me when people say, oh, Kiss should have released Charlotte of 86. We freaking have that already. Why do you want them to release something that we already have? Right? If my buddy Vincent says he doesn't have that, I can send it to him in 10 seconds and you can find it on YouTube. Why do you want Kiss to release a show that's already out there and Collector's Hands? I am excited that this includes a show that was not in Collector's Hands. That to me is what the Off the Soundboard series should be about. And I'm glad that is what it's about. So that's just my opinion on that.
Just as a side note,
yes,
you know what might be the greatest steal on because I'm already looking through the merchandise.
Go ahead. And that's where I'm going to go next.
They sell the gold records and platinum records for like $270.
Yeah. Yep.
How is that so cheap? I say cheap. I don't want to.
No, it's all relative.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is the legit. Like you're going to get a gold record. It says RIAA.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
And I think they put your name on it also.
Yeah, this is like the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
I'll pick on them for charging $50,000 for a stupid 45.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's made of gold or made out of Paul Stanley's urine and poop. But, you know what I mean? That's pretty gross.
That would not be what I want.
You can't get any more personal than that.
No, you can't.
But yeah, this is pretty nice. And then they got some nice choices here.
They do. The
Live 2 one is pretty premium. All of them are nice.
They do a nice job with those, and you can have your name engraved in it, and they do a nice job.
What's interesting though, again, is always something they got to mess up. Why on God's green earth do they have the Hotter Than Hell with the blue label Casablanca, but the first album with the tan?
Like you said, they always got to mess something up.
I don't understand that.
All right. So here, you want to talk about messing something up before we get to the merchandise? I think one of the biggest negative comments about this Off the Soundboard release. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
No CD.
Really?
Yes. Vinyl only.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I knew you probably wouldn't know that. Now,
just because the whole industry has just gone away from CDs entirely.
That's what I have to think. So I will say this, and then people notice they've seen it online. I was in Vegas last week with members of Kiss, Pop House, etc. They did bring up that this was going to be announced this week. They did not ever say that there was not going to be a CD, but it was very clear from the moment it was announced that Pop House said, yeah, there is no CD. We've spoke to Universal. There is no CD. This sounds like this was a Universal decision,
Hmm.
not a Pop House decision. And I have to believe Universal's making the decision because, like you said, there just seems probably to be no money in people buying physical product. I have to think Universal knows the number of CDs they have sold for the other off the soundboards. And while there may be hundreds of fans that are upset about it, I have to think that they know, hey, we could sell 500 CDs. This isn't worth it. Saying that, it seems like there's going to be a CD exclusive release in Japan only,
Hmm.
which is very odd to me. It has been, I know I was on vacation since this was announced, and today's my first day home, but I've seen a lot of noise online about people being upset about no CD. So let me pause there and ask you your thoughts on that.
Doesn't affect me personally. I haven't bought a CD in ages.
Yep.
I mean, it's to the point where it's a legacy format at this point. When they stopped putting it in cars, to me, it became almost like a legacy format. However,
Yep.
a lot of people still have CD players, right, in their stereo. Do they? You know, I guess,
Yep.
we know vinyl has been, I think, has traditionally, more so recently, has outsold CDs,
Yep.
so I understand. Plus, they could, let's face facts, probably charge more for a vinyl product, and do a lot
Mhm.
more with it,
Yeah.
to sell it.
Yep.
So I kind of understand why they're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I will say this. It took me by, even though I knew ahead of time that this was going to be announced, and I did not know the formats, and Pop House never spoke about that with us. I know Pop House has heard loud and clear that people are upset that there are no CDs. I could say to you firsthand that I know they have gone back to Universal with this feedback and said, Kiss fans want a CD, Universal. You should reconsider, and you put it out there. Does that mean it's going to happen? In Pop House's words, no promises. Nice. But they have championed the Kiss fan cause because they heard loud and clear the feedback from fans, and they've brought this to Universal. It's Universal's decision, though. This is not Pop
Mm,
House's decision. It's not Paul and Gene's decision. Um, it's up to Universal, and I have to believe, and I don't know this, but I have to believe, to the point you just made, Universal is going to make a decision based on dollars and cents. And if they upset 300 Kiss fans who would have bought the CD, they may want to live with that. I don't know.
mm,
I don't know. I know Pop House is trying to get the CD because they've heard the Kiss fans' feedback. Um, but it's a universal decision. And I don't know how that's going to play out. It does not impact me just the same as it doesn't impact you. Because I will probably stream it. Saying that, I
mm-hmm.
do have some of the CDs from the off the soundboards, but what do? I take them, I make a digital copy, I put it in my Apple Music account, and I listen to it there. So it's really no major skin off my back. And then I put the CD in a shelf in a closet, and I never look at it again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah. All right. So let's get to the merchandise.
Mm,
The
mm,
other thing that kind of blew up this week, right? So I'll start off here, but let me start off here. It's freaking egregious having only merchandise of Paul and Gene. There's no other way to say that. It's freaking egregious to have merchandise with only two members on it. Now, having said that, it also came as zero surprise because when they released the off the soundboard for the Mark St. John show from 1984, it was only Paul and Gene. When they released some other things, there was only merchandise with Paul and Gene. So when I saw the merchandise drop, and I saw it online just like everybody else, I did not have any previews of this. Um, there was no surprise, and I looked at it and I said, "Don't like that at all." So I know you, before we recorded, looking through the merchandise, and you had some reaction. So I'll let you talk for a moment here. What's your reaction to the merchandise?
My reaction is why.
Mm-hmm.
My reaction is why. There's got to be some sort of reason behind this.
And I could share that, and I will share that in a moment, but I'll
Okay,
let you talk
so
first.
that's my first thing because it just looks weird to me.
Yep.
I'm looking at the T-shirt, which, again, we go back to that Asylum, the colors and all that stuff.
Yep.
Uh, and even to the point where I'm just looking at the pic set that they're showing. I don't know what that has to do with Ace Frehley and Peter Criss. Like, how is
Yep.
that a product? I mean, it's
I agree.
cool, but how's that Asylum off doing anything with that? You know,
Agreed.
the trading card set. Like, does that come with only 4 cards?
Yep.
That's a set of 4.
Yep.
Man, I remember baseball cards back in the day. I think we had at least 500 cards.
Yep. Yep.
Whatever it is, what it is.
Or even the Kiss cards are at least what 66 cards in a
Yeah,
set.
those were glorious.
They were
Right?
glorious.
Yeah, this is just weird. I don't know. So why don't you just either ease my mind or make me or rationalize what the reason is behind this?
Yeah. So I don't know that I could either ease your mind or rationalize it, right? I could only tell you the facts behind the situation. So when the merchandise were released, I think on Monday this week, again, that was not something that those of us who are in communication with Pop House had visibility to ahead of time. So I saw it online the first time everybody else saw it. And my first thought was, yeesh, yeesh. Just like I had it when they released the Analyze stuff and then some of the other things that were Paul and Gene only. Um, there was obviously a lot of noise online about the merchandise being only Paul and Gene. I think there was more noise this time than ever before, simply because, with no disrespect, but when Mark St. John was left off, I think people felt, well, he was only in the band for about an hour and a half. There's no
Mm-hmm.
major loss, with no disrespect to Mark St. John. Leaving Bruce Kulick off and Eric off, but leaving Bruce Kulick off, I think hit a nerve with a lot of people, and
Mm-hmm.
rightly so. Bruce, to his credit, has taken the high road. And it's like, hey, at least there's that era is being recognized, and at least there's an official release coming out from my era. I would expect nothing less from Bruce, but for him to take the high road. Saying that, the noise Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that I saw while on vacation and barely having internet access, it was impossible. I could freaking hear it from 8,000 feet up on top of a mountain with no internet. I could hear all the Kiss fans complaining, right,
Mm.
about there being, only Paul and Gene merch. So those of us working with Pop House went back to Pop House literally instantly and said, this is egregious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to their credit, they took it very seriously, and they did come back and say there's reasons behind it. They are not the reasons, right? So what they explained to us is that there is a company called Bravado that owns the rights to the visuals Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons, right? From that era. Bravado is owned by Universal. Bravado does not own the rights for the likeness to Bruce and Eric. So therefore, when Bravado is putting out merchandise, they cannot use the likeness to Bruce or Eric without permission. No different than when Bruce Kulick sells his own merchandise and he puts his likeness on it and he doesn't put Paul and Gene's on it. No different than when Eric Carr sells merchandise and the family puts his likeness on it and not Paul and Gene or Bruce, right? They don't own the likeness to each other. Now, my opinion, where Bravado dropped the ball here, is they should have looked to obtain, at least for this product, the rights to Bruce's likeness, the rights to Eric's likeness to put on the merchandise and work out a deal with Bruce and work out a deal with the family. I am quite sure that Bruce would have been more than happy to work out a deal with Bravado to have his likeness on the merchandise. I will also say using their likeness on the merchandise is different contractually than using their likeness on the cover of a CD. Those are different contracts. That's why you see Bruce and
Well,
Eric on the CD and not on the merch.
I think the likeness is that whole style of what the Asylum covers. Is that's what they're talking about
Right.
with the colored thing? That I'm
Right.
assuming that's
Well,
what
but
that
I
is.
think even just using their faces and using photos of them and selling new merchandise, that's why the cards only have Paul and Gene, and you don't have a picture of Bruce from the Tears of Fallen video, right?
Mm-hmm.
It goes back to this contract. One of the things I have learned, especially in the last week, is that the ownership of Kiss and the likeness and the music and all of that is all over the place. It is
Mm.
not Pop House owns Kiss, right? Universal owns the music, but they only own the music up until a certain point in the late 80s, early 90s. Pop House owns the new music. The new releases that come out, these off the soundboards, they go through Universal, but they're working with Pop House on this. The makeup is owned by Pop House. The non-makeup is owned by Bravado, obviously.
It's
It's,
interesting.
yeah, Bruce owns his likeness. Eric owns his likeness. Vinny supposedly owns the Ankh and the Fox makeup, right? It's freaking, it's
He owns
all
the
over the
Ankh.
place.
Wait. You said Vinny owns the Ankh and the Fox.
Supposedly, yeah,
How did Vinny get the Fox makeup?
because Kiss or Eric Carr's family let it lapse and expire, and Vinny, to his credit or not, depending on your point of view, jumped in and purchased it.
That's the first time I'm ever hearing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, if you look there, there's a website where you can look up like the different copyrights in America, and it says it's owned by Vinny.
Interesting.
So
No
so
wonder why they never use it.
exactly. And that's why if you go back 5, 6, 7 years ago, whatever it is, Kiss did put out unmasked figures, like figurines, and it included Eric Carr with the makeup he wore at the Palladium show.
Hmm.
It's a different makeup design.
Yeah.
Right? So my point is the likeness, the rights to this stuff is all over the place, is the impression I get, you know? So it causes some of this confusion when merchandise is released. Now, in my opinion, one of two things should have happened with the merchandise. Either Bravado should have contacted Bruce, contacted Eric, and gotten their permission and work out, some kind of financial, agreements with them so that they can be included, or you just don't put out merchandise with Paul and Gene on it only. You could have done Asylum looking merchandise without any face on it, with the colors, like you said, is it all the different colors? You could have done something that didn't just stick Paul and Gene on a piece of merchandise only.
Yeah.
To me, it's tacky. It's tasteless. It's not something that I would ever purchase. If somebody else does, great. If it makes you happy, I'm not judging that at all. To me, the 80s Kiss was Paul, Gene, Bruce, and Eric. And if there's new merchandise from that era, I want the four of them. Like you said, when you saw them in concert, it was the four of them, so it just, to me, it's upsetting that it leaves a bad taste in so many people's mouth on a product that people should be excited about. Instead, it just becomes negative.
I totally agree.
So if you were given the choice, would you rather see new merchandise for the record with no band pictures on it, but that just celebrates something that looks like the Asylum era, or would you rather have just had no merch at all? And I know you're probably not the target audience for the merch, so maybe you're not the best person to ask, but what are your thoughts?
Now, just what are you asking my thoughts on what exactly?
Yeah. So new merchandise, T-shirt, let's just say, or something like that. Do you want it to have no band members on it, but the Kiss logo, maybe some of the colors from the album cover or whatever, but it celebrates the Kiss Asylum era, or would you rather have no merchandise at all?
I don't know if I want no merchandise at all, but I agree with you. Like, kind of just make it of the era, of the feel of that, but just to have the two guys on a T-shirt just looks weird to me. That's not the band.
Yeah, it feels like, and I know that this is not the intention, but it feels like they're almost like trying to erase Bruce and Eric.
That's what it feels like.
Right. And it just, to me, it's the wrong decision. Again, I know Pop House has heard this loud and clear, and they've gone back to Universal, Bravado with this feedback. I think it goes back, and I hate to say this, it goes back to dollars and cents. If Bravado or Universal feels as though there's money to be made off of this and it sells well enough, they're going to do it, and they're going to ignore the hundreds of fans who maybe are upset. At least that's my impression. I want the releases to be exclusively exciting, and
I mean, you could, and I'm not saying I agree. You could say that these things are a little unique in the sense that, it's just the two guys on there. Do I still think, I mean, I understand now if you're telling me why they couldn't do it.
Right.
It is somewhat unique. It is somewhat, so I can see where there's some appeal to that. I'm not saying for me, but I can see somebody else is like, oh, it's cool. It's, but ultimately it's incomplete. And
It's
that's the best
incomplete.
way I can
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. And it's disappointing because look, those of us who are working with Pop House, we knew about the off the soundboard ahead of time.
Hmm.
And I'll say I was excited about it and I remain excited about it. But then when something like the merchandise, which we did not have visibility to ahead of time, when something like the merchandise gets dropped and it's like this, it just adds a negative tone to something that doesn't need to be negative. Right. There was ways to work around this
Yeah.
in my mind, be it that you leave the guys off the merchandise, all four guys. I mean, be it that you don't do the merchandise. It puts a taint on something that is avoidable one way or another. We're working out a deal with Bruce now. Something could have been done, but hopefully the message is getting through loud and clear. And if and when there's another off the soundboard with Bruce or Eric, maybe they'll do the right thing going forward.
Hmm.
I'm not gambling my last $20 on it,
Well,
but
you got to remember too, a lot of this stuff with Pop House is in transition still, and
yes.
they're still trying to figure things out, and they're trying to put product out. They don't
Yes.
want there to be that long of a lapse between
Yes.
product, and so if it means in the interim that certain things like this have to happen, I kind of understand. I think Pop House heart is in the right place from everything
Oh,
you've
I
told
look,
me.
I could tell you with 2000% their heart is in
Yeah,
the right place. And I
right,
want to be crystal clear, they are not the ones doing this merchandise.
right,
Right.
right.
So it's somewhat out of their control. I say that their heart is in the right place because they have taken every ounce of feedback given to them. And I know for a fact they're reacting to it. Doesn't mean we're going to get the results we want. But look, I've worked for various Fortune 500 companies in my career. Not one of them have I ever heard them going back to their customers and sitting down with and saying, tell us what you don't like about this. The
Yeah.
fact that Pop House, they're not saying tell us what you don't like, but the Pop House is listening to every word we say, which is why I got really upset, keeping it all relative. I got
Yeah.
upset this week when I saw somebody post online that said, going back to the CD release or lack of CD release, that Pop House is, quote, lying to people about the release. They
Mm.
want you to buy the album, and then they're going to tell you in 6 weeks that they're going to release a CD and make you buy it again. Pop House is lying to take your money. That upset me because the person who made that comment is not in the room. They don't know what Pop House is and isn't saying. They don't know what Pop House is and is not trying to do. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, Pop House did not even know that a CD was going to be in Japan.
Hmm.
Okay. I was flat out told no CDs at all. And then when a CD did come out, it was like, well, that might not be accurate. Hold on. Don't publish that. Um, the rights for this stuff is all over the place, but Pop House is trying really, really hard to bring it all together and have everybody working together and make the fans happy.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean every fan's going to be happy every time. It's impossible.
Yeah.
But their heart is 100%. And that's why when I saw a comment like that, like I get upset. I'm like, no, if you were sitting in the room with these guys, and I'm not saying that because I'm sitting in the room, um, but if you were, because look, quite honestly, when I was sitting in the room with them, I told them things I didn't like that was done in the past about different products, and they're open to it. There's a thank you. We want to know that, right? It doesn't mean that what Mike Brunn said they're going to react differently to, but they want to know
Hmm.
it. They want to hear it. They don't want X number of yes people in the room with them. They do. I've heard that somebody told me that there's another podcast out there that's saying, oh, those who are working with Pop House are shills for Pop House. I understand somebody could have that opinion, and that's fine. That's valid. That's all good. But you're not in the room. And
Hmm.
the people who are saying that 100% wrong. Pop House has made it crystal clear they don't want 10, whatever the number is, yes people in the room with them.
Hmm.
Even Doc McGee has said, hey, we want these guys to talk honestly on their podcast. We want people to talk honestly online. We don't want them to be just an extension of the Kiss Psalm. We want them to give their honest opinion, which is why I could sit here and I could say, I love the Off the Soundboard release. I love the idea of it. I don't love what they've done with the merchandise, right? That's what they want. So people who are out there saying, and I understand why they do, and I'm not upset about it, but they're wrong if they say that, we're just being yes people to Pop House. Now, saying that, Pop House is not asking Mike Brunn and the others,
Mm.
should we put out an off the soundboard release? Which one should it be? Do you think it should be Asylum tour? Should it be Hot in the Shade? Should it be the first tour? They have their business model in place. they're going to go forward with that business model. They're going to ask opinions about it to maybe make tweaks on an offering, right? There is an offering that's coming probably in a month or so, I would say. That's going to become, common knowledge. And they were asking for opinions. So that offering is going to happen no matter what Mike Brunn or anybody else said. That offering is going to happen. I could have said it was the worst idea in the history of all mankind, and they would say, that's great, we're still going forward. What they want to know from the people like me is, we are going to offer that. What do you think is better, A or B? And guess what? When you ask 10 people, I'm using that number in quotes, when you ask 10 people, you might get 10 different answers. You might get 9 of the same answer, right? So they're just using this information to see what do they think the average KISS fan will like best. They're not saying, tell me, Mike Brunn or others, what tour should we release off the soundboard from? This is their business. They're going to do it their way, as they should. If I invested however many hundreds of millions of dollars, I'm not listening to some schmuck that loved the band for 40 years. I'm listening to myself who runs a business, right? But saying that, they want you. So KISS dropped a new website this week. I was able to see a prototype of it on a screen ahead of time. It was not active where you could click through it and be able to see all the different, it was just like a screenshot, if you will, of it. And the first thing that jumped off the page at me when I saw the screenshot, it's like there's a section for all the videos. And you can see Rock and Roll All Night, Come On and Love Me, I Want You, so on and so forth, right? And the first thing that jumped off the screen when they were showing this to me was, hold on, Rock and Roll All Night, that video that you used there is from Exposed. It's not the 75 video. I said, that as a KISS fan will drive me crazy. Pop House like, thank you. They wrote that down. They took it. The website was released and the Exposed version is still out there. Now they've heard that and they said the reason for that is they've requested a high def copy from Universal, quote, ages ago, and they can't get it. So therefore it's not on the page yet, but they've made a note and they will update it when they get it from Universal. And this is my point, where their heart is in the right place, but there's so many moving pieces. You can't just say, oh, Pop House put out something, they don't care. That's not what it is. I just use that as an example because I had seen that and it was something I pointed out to them before the website went live. They are aware of that. There's other things like that, and they've been taking feedback and making changes to the website in real time over the last 24, 36 hours because they want to get it right. So I just throw some of that stuff out there. I don't know. I hate that some of this negativity creeps into this type of stuff, though, because to me, the soundboards are back, and that's exciting, and that should be celebrated. And I don't want to be talking about this other nonsense. I know, like I said, something else will come up in the next month or so, and I think it'll be exciting. I know there's more plans for 2025, and I think those will be exciting. But when you have merchandise that's only Paul and Gene, when you have a $50,000 Strutter gold thing, those are the things that some people just latch onto. And I hate that. I hate that because to me, this should be about celebrating the band and the exciting stuff as we go forward. And maybe it's just an online thing where people just tend to focus on the negative. Maybe it's just the way people are these days.
You get that no matter what. I mean, no matter what the subject matter is, you're going to have this. It's not just a KISS thing.
I think you're right. And that's where I try to tell myself, look, I might not like the t-shirt they put out, but who cares? I'm excited about the CD. And that's all that matters to me. Truth is, I probably wouldn't have bought the t-shirt if Eric and Bruce were on it also. So I'm not going to get myself all up in arms over something that's out of Pop House's control, out of my control, out of KISS fans' control. This t-shirt has Paul and Gene on it. I don't like it. I don't buy it. Move on. Right? That's the way I show my voting power, if you will. I don't buy the shirt. I don't buy the trading cards because it's incomplete for all the band members. But I was going to say the CD, but they don't even that's probably the one. As much as I don't buy CDs that much, that one's a little bit of a head scratcher. I hope Universal changes their mind and that they go forward and put out a CD. And then probably what will happen is Kiss fans will say, "Aha! You see, you made me buy the vinyl, and now you make me."
Right,
So people won't be happy either way. But
right, right,
so I'll
right.
say this: hopefully, on future releases, they don't make that mistake, and they just from day one announce that it'll be on a CD also.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, I think that's enough on the off the soundboard. I did mention, obviously, that I've been, and I mentioned this a few times in the past. I've been working with Pop House on some things. Like I said, they're not looking for Mike Brunn or anybody else to say, tell us what we should do with that. What do you think we should release? Let's sit down and talk about that. Then they're not doing that. It's more of like, hey, what do you think is better? Better A, better B? What do you think of this idea? Do you like it? Do you not like it? They're just looking for information like that. There are a number of things that are still planned for this year that I think are exciting. But just because Mike Brunn thinks they're exciting doesn't mean that every person on the planet is going to think that they're exciting. But I think it'll be 2025 is going to be an exciting year for Kiss fans. And I think some people are going to love what they hear. Others maybe not. It's just like you just said before. That's the way of the world. I don't care
Hmm.
what it is. But I'll be curious to see how fans start reacting to some of the new announcements coming during this year. And I'm quite sure we'll end up doing episodes about that. I know I'll be doing some episodes about some of the things coming out this year. So I'll be curious to see what people say. I hope I helped clear up a little bit some of the stuff with the merchandise and the ownership. And that's just the information I've received in the last week. I
Hmm.
believe that's the right information. We may find out 2 weeks from now that there's even more to this. I think it's very convoluted, right? But it's not. I want to make sure it's crystal clear. It is not at all anybody trying to wipe Eric Carr and Bruce Kulick from memory. That is, I can tell you with 1000% certainty, that is not the case. This all comes down to business licenses, contracts, and all of that. Would I make different decisions if I was the one holding those contracts? Probably,
Hmm.
because the appearance from fans is that Kiss is wiping out Bruce and Eric.
Hmm.
But I
Hmm.
can tell you beyond any shadow of a doubt that is 100% not the case by anybody. And I think that's the most important thing that I wanted to make sure that I stress is that nobody is trying to wipe, no matter what the appearance looks like, and I know it looks bad. I'm not denying that. That is not the intention. So
It's good that you clarify that because hopefully you'll put some people at ease in their thinking or whatever you want to say, that Kiss is not just making this all about Gene and Paul.
they're not. And look, I think that people who feel a certain way, rightly so. I'm not
Hmm.
minimizing the way people feel about this. I think they're still going to continue to feel that way, and that's their prerogative, right? I
Hmm.
said if I own these contracts, I would be making different decisions,
Hmm.
but I want to make sure it's crystal clear. There's nobody sitting in a room saying we need to wipe Eric Carr off of memory. We need to wipe Bruce Kulick off of memory. At least in the conversations I'm a part of, those guys have been cherished by the team
Hmm.
that we're working with and embraced, and there's no desire to wipe them from memory at all. So I want to make sure that I feel an obligation to clarify that personally. What other people
Hmm.
do with that, that's their business, right? If you still want to be angry that there's merchandise without Bruce and Eric, I understand that. I
Hmm.
totally understand that. But just put the anger in the right spot. Say, oh, this sucks.
Hmm.
Bravado should have negotiated with Bruce Kulick to get his license on it. Okay, that's
Right.
fair.
Right.
That is fair. Now that's a fair dispute, and don't make the argument that Kiss is wiping Bruce and Eric out of existence. That's not. Make the argument that they should be negotiating with those guys to get them on it.
Hmm.
I don't think this is the case at all. What I'm about to say. How do we know that Bravado didn't go back to Bruce Kulick and Eric Carr and they said, yeah, we want $1 million each for the merchandise? I don't think that at all, right?
Hmm.
We don't know. We're not in
Right.
those rooms. The impression I get is that Bruce wasn't even contacted, which is egregious.
Yeah.
But maybe he was, and his asking price was too much. I don't think so. I don't think that for a second. But we don't know that.
Yeah.
So let's not make assumptions. All righty. I think that's that.
Yeah.
Anything else positive that you want to say with this, with you off the soundboard or anything else?
Well, okay, the positive thing is like, all right, which they're starting up the releases again, of
Yep.
the what Kiss fans want, and that's a good thing. So I think that's the biggest positive out of this. We're getting these were very popular releases. It's very exciting, especially for shows that there was no bootleg or anything like that.
Exactly.
And the fact that they chose one like this, it's great. So I think this is good stuff.
Yeah. And like I said, I've seen some of the plans for this year, and I think there's even more and even better good stuff to come over the next
That's
9
good to know.
months. And I think that over the next 3 to 6 weeks, we'll start to hear more information about some of the other offerings coming this year. So I think it'll be an exciting year for Kiss fans. And that's where I want to leave it. I'm excited about the Off the Soundboard. I'm excited about what's in store for us. And I think that it's going to be a good year. And hopefully we're not talking about Bruce and Eric not being on a t-shirt instead. We're talking about some more exciting stuff.
Agreed.
All right, everybody. I think that's a wrap on this episode. Of course, we want to know your opinion on the merchandise. We want to know your opinion on the Off the Soundboard. Are you excited about the release? We can't forget that we want to know your opinion on the Girl Scout cookies. I think that was important.
Yes,
And
right
I
there.
think we also need to know if it's Han or Han. Right. So the
Right.
four key things that we need to know, and two of them
Very,
have
very
nothing to do with the
important.
podcast.
Very, very important.
So yes, very important indeed. But I think that's a wrap for this one. I think we'll be back again soon enough. And I look forward to everybody's comments, everybody's feedback. It's all welcome. All opinions are always welcome. And until then, that's it for this episode. Later, everybody.
Later.
Alrighty, there you have it. Our thoughts and our opinion on the announcement for the newest Kiss release of the Off the Soundboard series. I also hope in this episode we helped clear up some of the questions that you may have about why Bruce and Eric are not on the new merchandise. As always, all opinions are welcome, and we look forward to seeing and reading those. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.